Oh, Carly, we always talk about, of course, the big game, and babies that always tend to be conceived during the big game are called Super Bowl babies. We'll take a different turn this year. I'm sure you've heard this one, quarantine babies, ones that were conceived during isolation and during that time of the pandemic. Can you believe it, though? Those babies, now newborns.
I
Let's go
know.
ahead, talk a little baby news with one of our dear friends, Dr. Jennifer Arnold, of course, from All Children's. I can't believe it. I remember like all of that buzz, back in March, like all these babies, they're going to be quarantine babies. And here we are.
Now they're here. They're being born. It's just miraculous, right?
I know. So shout out one of my best friends. She's a twin, actually. She had her baby yesterday, and this is, I think, a difficult time for any new parents or anyone with a newborn. But we're still kind of under quarantine, right, in that life.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, I think, on parents to certainly bring a new baby into the world in these times.
Well, I think it's there's an added stress, right? It's hard enough to be a new parent of a baby, but it's also now you have to deal with being on quarantine, trying to know how to protect yourself and your baby during this time. And there are ways you can do it, but it adds that layer of stress because just having a newborn baby is stressful enough.
Let's get into the details about that, because say you are a new parent and maybe even this is your first child and you're dealing with things like, first I think of like crying. When is it colic? When is that normal? And if you don't have any other family or people that are coming into your house to sometimes get those answers, it can be even more tough. Do you have like a guide or checklist if people find themselves in that situation?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's, first and foremost, don't be afraid to reach out to family and friends, and of course your pediatrician virtually. That's with video conferencing. Your pediatrician can see your baby and walk you through all the things that are going on. But in addition to that, babies cry, and babies are going to cry a lot. It doesn't mean that there's anything you're doing wrong as a parent. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your baby necessarily. But I think the first step is to talk to your pediatrician about it, what you're seeing, so they can evaluate, could there be something that, is causing the baby to cry maybe more than you might expect, or is this normal crying? And again, as I mentioned, babies are going to increase their crying up through the first couple of months of life. And we know a lot of us have heard about colic, right? So what is colic? And that's the thing that parents worry about. Colic is very common. It's, nothing is wrong with your baby, but it's defined as when those crying episodes occur for more than 3 hours a day, more than 3 days a week in infants 3 months or less. And so again, all babies with colic, it will resolve on its own for sure by 8 to 9 months, but usually after 3 months of life. But colic can be a stressful situation for babies that do have that because of the excessiveness of the crying. And so tips for parents, try to find ways to be calm, soothe your baby, hold or swaddle, but make sure you give yourself respite as well so that you don't become overwhelmed. Most important is to, if you have a loved one that you can, is on quarantine with you, that you can call on to take over to give yourself a break. Mm-hmm. But there are soothing things, rubbing your baby's belly, rocking your baby, changing the environment a little bit. White noise in the background actually can even be a technique to try. So lots of things you can try, but I would definitely recommend talking to your pediatrician.
And remember, everything is a phase. That's what I've learned with mine is this too shall pass. It doesn't last forever, but I know it can feel like that in the moment. Talk about jaundice. How common is, my older two had jaundice and we had to live that, where we had to constantly get them tested. How common is that and how concerned should we be about it?
Yes. So jaundice is actually extraordinarily common. In fact, almost all newborn babies will have what we call benign or normal physiologic jaundice to some level. Jaundice is just caused by your red blood cells that when they break down, because all red blood cells do, they produce something called bilirubin. And bilirubin in and of itself is normally processed by your liver and then excreted out through urine and poop. Unfortunately, for babies, that the liver's not quite up to speed yet. And so they will have, after birth, when they're no longer in the womb and your liver as the mom isn't doing that work for them, it'll take a little bit of time for the liver to rev up and to be able to process all that bilirubin. So what happens with jaundice is babies turn yellow, usually head to toe. And so again, a little bit of jaundice is normal in all babies, but because we worry about high levels of bilirubin causing neurologic problems if it does get too high, that's why it's important to monitor. And so what are the things that you should do? Well, first, your pediatrician, the hospital where your baby's born, will check the bilirubin before you go home to see if it looks like it's at risk of increasing. There are certain risk factors that your doctor will also think about. For example, if your baby's born premature, maybe a higher risk of higher levels of bilirubin or jaundice. And then really the things to look out for is if the bilirubin or the yellow color in the skin is growing, you should definitely call your pediatrician to think about getting that level checked, because really it's hard to know for sure if your baby's at risk for that neurologic problem unless we know the level in the blood.
Well, Dr. Arnold, we only have a few seconds left. I know the other topic we wanted to touch on, I got my reminder call yesterday to get an appointment for my daughter. Vaccines, still so important. I know there's still a hesitation for some to, go out and maybe go to the pediatrician. I'll let you have the last word with this one.
Yes, no, vaccines are near and dear to my heart. They help protect all of us from preventable diseases that can cause major illness and even potentially death. So, we have vaccines that are well studied, very safe, and they're meant to be given at certain intervals based on a baby's developing immune system. So it's kind of like the milestones that we all have for our baby. Look for them to, make their first sounds and to roll over and to say their first words and to walk, and all of these things based on the developmental milestones that your baby is expected to have. Well, immunizations are actually just the same. They're meant to be given at certain intervals to help provide maximal protection for your baby, but also so that your immune system can respond and those vaccines will be most effective.
We love your passion for babies. It shines through and through. Thank you for spending some time with us. Good to see you. Happy New Year. We've missed you. Hopefully you'll come back again soon.
Oh, thank you. I would love to. Happy New Year to you, and good luck to your friend's new baby.
I will send her your well wishes. Thanks,
Take
Dr.
care.